Okay, so we're back on looking at discernment in session 4. So, who were you when this relationship started? Oftentimes, when we're in long term relationships, we are a totally different person than the one we are now when we're deciding whether this relationship is healthy for us. So, there's an attraction, there's a need, there's also a time in your life where this relationship might have just filled the gap that you were looking for. But now that you're X amount years later, maybe a decade or two, you're really looking at, is this relationship serving me? So sometimes when we're in a relationship for so long, we learn to adapt and adjust and we stay because staying is a much better means than leaving. And we're also figuring out how to do our lives and be ourselves, whether it's raising a family, having a career, or just having an active social life. So everybody does the best that they can to stay together for certain periods of time. But if you're feeling like who you were when you started this relationship is definitely changed and it's not who you are now, and your needs are really unmet and you've tried to address them many, many times, then it might be important to do this dialogue outside and out loud to your partner so that they know where you're at. I often find that people who've changed a lot in their relationship, they might say things like, yes, and the other person didn't grow emotionally at all. Or, I have this really amazing career, which adds this whole other aspect to my life. And it's really hard to be with someone who doesn't have a career. Or, um, raising kids is one aspect of living life, but we have so many more chapters. And I don't feel like this person and I have as much in common as we did when we started out. Whatever the reason, the biggest surprise shock that happens in partnership is when people don't talk about these changes happening. And usually changes happen over time. For example, usually when there's and people aren't getting along in relationship, it's not just the day that they decide to separate. It's been happening for a long time, either avoided or each person started to really live more individually from the other person to avoid the other person. And that can happen in many different ways. People can develop healthy and non-healthy habits to kind of avoid the relationship or not have a lot of interaction. There can be a well-developed social life that happens, so the person isn't home a lot, or workaholism, or overworking, or a demanding job, whatever you want to call it, that takes the person away from the family or the household. So think about all of these things and how they might apply to your relationship now. And if you can, and I hope you will, or if you can't, I hope you get help to find ways to talk about this in your partnership. Because if you're in a discernment process, this is the time to start looking at every angle and whether there can be a growing back together or whether the growing apart feels much more permanent and much more non-flexible. So take a look at some of these aspects and see if they apply to you.